What's going on YouTube? So you don't need me to tell you that pickup trucks are a big deal in America, which is why for 2020 Nissan is giving their Titan a really extensive refresh to try to put it back on the radar of American consumers, since it is often the forgotten truck option. So with that said, let's go ahead and see if they have done enough to win over new truck shoppers. So to kick things off here with the exterior design, we have the refreshed front end, which has got to be probably the biggest area that Nissan updated as far as the exterior styling. So basically what they did was took a very similar looking grille to a concept vehicle they had a few years back and kind of enacted it here on this Titan. So it has a slightly different shape. They also did a lot of different types of finishes to make the trims look different from each other. Then as far as your headlights over here, they're not really different on this specific trim because they are the halogens, but if you go up one more to the Pro 4X, that's where you'll get a brand new LED headlight, which has a really nice and premium look to it. When you choose one of those trim levels, that's also where you'll get the LED fog lights. Now down here at your wheels, as you would expect, Nissan has refreshed the designs for 2020. On this specific example, we have an 18-inch contrast alloy, which I think looks quite nice, but you can go all the way up to a 20-inch alloy when you go for the Platinum Reserve. And then coming up here to your mirrors, we have the optional towing mirrors, which are a little bit bigger. We do have an LED turn signal. You actually have blind spot monitoring standard on every single trim of the Titan, and then you'll even have auto dimming if you go for the SL or the Platinum.
Now before we get around to the rear design of this Titan, I do need to talk about the different cab configurations that you can get. The two-door version has actually been discontinued for 2020, so now you have the option between the extended cab and this full-door crew cab. Now if you go for that extended cab, you will have the long 6.5-foot bed or the 5.5-foot bed on the crew cab model. Now walking around to the rear design itself, Nissan hasn't really changed a ton with the rear design, although they have made a few updates. One of those updates was to put these new LED taillights on the Titan, and that is going to be standard on all but the very base S model. And then you do have an exposed exhaust pipe on the other end. Now walking up to the Titan's bed itself, we do have a dampened tailgate on all of the models, as well as a nice bed liner here in the bed. And as far as the changes for 2020, we do have some new LED lighting all throughout, and we do continue to have this nice assist step that makes getting into the tailgate pretty easy. And as far as the towing itself is concerned, you're going to be looking at 10,800 pounds on the four-wheel drive model as a maximum. Now this 2020 Titan does have a really long list of safety systems that are standard even on that base S model. So Safety Shield 360 is standard, and that includes automatic emergency braking with pedestrian detection, rear auto braking, and lane departure warning. And then if you go for the SV and up, that will also throw in adaptive cruise control as well as auto high beam headlights. Well guys, that sums up the rugged exterior of this Titan, so let's go ahead and hop inside before we take it out on a spin.
So on the Titan, Nissan does provide their intelligent entry system as well as remote start on the Pro 4X trim and higher, or we have it here on this SV with the convenience package. And in typical Nissan fashion, there is not a sensor behind the handle, so you just press this black button to unlock. Now taking a peek inside of this cabin, as you can see, there are some tech upgrades as well as a few different styling upgrades for this 2020 refresh. Now talking about the interior material and color options, what you'll be looking at is cloth seating and charcoal or beige options for your S through your SV trim levels. When you go for the Pro 4X, you'll get the same charcoal cloth but with orange stitching. And then if you go for the SL, that's where you will get leather seating and the same color options Finally, the Platinum Reserve comes with a special brown leather and unique wood trim. Now turning over here to your door trim, as you can see, it is nicely appointed. You have a nice padded area here for your arm to rest upon, as well as a leather trim above that. The top part is hard touch though. As far as your windows, the driver and passenger are going to be one touch auto up and down. And then coming down here to your seats, we've got the 8-way power adjusting seat, which comes on the majority of trims. And on this SV, it's part of the convenience package. And then like I was saying, this is a cloth seat. I definitely like the design of this. It has a lot of different textures, nice stitching detail, and it is very comfortable. Now in this specific example, we're missing running boards, so the step in is a little high. But Nissan has provided a driver's side assist grip, so it's not too hard to get in, even for a short person like myself. Now the main parts of the cabin design have not changed, and most of the materials are the same as last year. So across your upper dash here, you're going to find a soft touch plastic. On your higher trim levels, you would have a stitching detail. Dropping down, we have an area of hard touch plastic. We also have a piano black trim on this model. Like I said, you would have a wood trim on the Platinum. And then on your lower areas, they are mostly hard touch. However, everything does fit together very well and feels nice and solid. Now start the Titan, we have push button start. Now one of the things you can see right off the bat is going to be a new 7-inch multi-function display right there in the middle of your gauge cluster. It also has a really cool animation upon startup. Now this does work the same as in other Nissan models, so you can just cycle through a whole lot of information, including some stuff dedicated to off-roading and towing, specifically to make living with the Titan easier. Now coming back to the steering wheel, you do have electric power assisted steering, and the vast majority of the trim levels will have a leather wrapped steering wheel. As far as your adjustment, it is of course manually adjusting on these lower trims. It is power on the upper trims, and if you go for that Platinum trim, you will have wood all around it, and it will also be heated. Now we also have rain sensing wipers even on this lower trim level, since we have the SV utility package. And then off to the side here, the Titan does come with a traditional column mounted shifter. So of course, for drive, you're just going to pull down. You can press the end to activate the tow mode, and you can also shift manually with these little toggles right here. And then jumping into reverse, you will find a standard backup camera. Of course, you do have the active trajectory. As you can see, we also have parking sensors as well, part of that convenience package. And then if you go for either the SL or the Platinum, that's where you'll get Nissan's around view monitor. Alright, so let's go ahead and talk about interior storage, because it's a very important part of any truck. So starting out here with our center console, as you can see, it is very wide. And when we open it up, we're greeted with a little tray, which we can remove and reveal this gigantic storage bin. Definitely right in line with what the rivals offer, and it does have a felt lining and a 12-volt outlet at the bottom. Of course, you also have 2 cup holders. We have another little area here which will hold your phone upright, but it is not a wireless phone charger. And then you have a small storage area right there, and a little bit of a larger one along the side. Alright, so moving on up, of course you have a traditional 4-wheel drive controller there. We also have a trailer brake controller, a regular USB and a USB Type-C, as well as a 12-volt outlet. And then above that, we have a few more controls related to our safety systems and parking sensors. Now usually the SV does not come with a dual zone automatic setup, but since we have the convenience package, we have the dual zone automatic setup that's usually reserved for the Pro 4X and higher. Of course, this is very simple to use. In typical truck fashion, we just have 2 large knobs, and everything is located physically right here. Additionally, we also have the 2-stage heated seats. Those are also part of the convenience package. Alright, and now that brings us here to our audio system. Now, new for 2020, you have the availability of a Fender 12-speaker premium sound system on both the SL and the Platinum. But of course, this being the SV means we have the standard 6-speaker sound system, which we'll go ahead and sample right now. I have to admit, I'm pretty impressed by the sound quality. It definitely seems like there's more than just 6 speakers inside of this cabin. Okay, so now we are here at probably the biggest change for 2020, and that's going to be just this brand new updated interface. So the first thing you'll notice is your screen sizes have been updated. So the smallest screen you can actually get on the Titan is surprisingly an 8-inch display. So that's definitely larger than what you get standard on most of the competition. And this right here is the biggest option, which is a 9-inch display. This is optional in this model through the SV convenience package, as is a lot of the other equipment that I mentioned so far. So just kind of looking around here, like a lot of recent Nissans, you have kind of the layout with apps and widgets. I also have to really commend Nissan. The resolution is above high definition, so it definitely looks very crisp here. And I like the scheme, and the overall responsiveness is really good. As far as anything else to point out, we have navigation that will come with any of the models that have the 9-inch display. And even if you don't get the 9-inch display, you will still have Android Auto and Apple CarPlay abilities. And moving on up here, we have the auto dimming mirror with the HomeLink universal remotes. And unfortunately, we are missing one of the big 2020 changes on this specific example, and that's that Nissan is now offering a panoramic moonroof, optional on the top 3 trim levels. But I have seen pictures of it. It's definitely very large and really adds to the upscale vibe of the truck.
Alright, so hopping in this Titan's rear seat. Now, like I mentioned on the outside, this is the crew cab configuration, so this is the largest rear area you're going to get. That said, it is still quite a bit smaller than some of the rivals like the F-150 and Chevy Silverado, since it does come in at 39 inches of rear legroom and 41 inches of rear headroom. That said, still behind rear seating position, there's going to be plenty of space for everyone, since I probably have, I would say, at least a foot of legroom, and my feet can easily slide up underneath the seat. So space definitely isn't an issue, but it is less than some of the rivals. Now, as far as the feature set they've thrown in, I actually am pretty impressed, since up top we do have some cup holders, and we do also have vents down here in the center, as well as a absolute ton of connections. So we have a 12-volt outlet, 2 smart charging USBs, and a regular household style outlet, which I think is quite nice for an SV trim. And then here in the center, we do have a fold-down armrest with cup holders inside. Now, this is a truck after all, so Nissan does have some practicality here in the rear and does allow you to fold the seats up. So in order to do it, you just grab it and lift up, and then it will lock into place. Then, as you can see, you do have a fairly flat loading floor, but this is not exactly flat. So they've actually included this little fold-out compartment here that will allow it to be completely flat if that's necessary for whatever you're hauling in this rear area. And then you can actually lift this up to reveal a little bit of space up under here, although it is not a lot of space. Now, the passenger seat on this SV trim is manually adjusting, and in front we do have a decently sized glove box. It's smaller than what I would have thought for a truck though. And then up top at the ceiling we do have a sun visor with an LED light and mirror, and it does also detach and extend.
Alright, so first taking off here in this refreshed 2020 Titan. As you can probably hear, we still have a really nice old school V8 on board. That's not to say nothing has changed, because it actually has been updated, retuned with more power this year. We're now looking at 400 horsepower from the 5.6 liter Endurance V8.
413 pound-feet of torque too, so this is pretty torque rich in addition to it. And the really great thing about it is that this is actually the standard engine. This is the only engine you can get in this Titan, so even if you go for a cheaper model, you're still going to get that big burly V8 engine, as opposed to some of the competition where, you know, maybe you'll end up, you know, we were talking about this earlier, the Silverado, you can actually get a 4-cylinder in it.
Yeah.
So double the cylinders as standard on this Titan.
Right, I mean, if you just look at those power numbers, the 6.2 Silverado engine, which is the highest one you can get, is 420 horsepower. So that's only 20 more horsepower. And like you said, you start at 4-cylinder and, you know, 6-cylinder. You have all these steps to get up to it. You know, this just goes straight to the point, even if you get the lowest possible one.
It definitely has a good sound and gets up to speed pretty quick. I will say though, it's pretty refined in its the sound coming into the cabin. I will say that maybe it's just because we did the Tundra TRD Pro with the catback exhaust, but it seems like the Tundra was a lot more loud upon its acceleration. So you know, that's just something to consider here. It seems a little bit more refined.
Yeah, it's really smooth. Like, that's the type of thing I know a lot of truck buyers you're looking for. You want, you know, if you want that more traditional option, you want that smooth V8, and this does have really smooth operation and, like you said, a really pleasant sound to it as well.
You know, and kind of hitting that bump there, that's going to bring up my next point about, you know, the Titan's ride quality. So far we've been on this country road, and I'm very impressed with its ride quality. It does have a very soft damping, at least in this particular trim level, and the ride is good. And I also think that, like we mentioned earlier, the sound entering into this cabin is good as well. So I will go ahead and get a sound level test here and kind of do it for reference.
Okay, obviously we're not going to be going too fast in this since we're on a country road, but we're going to be going about 40.
Yeah, that's about what I thought. You know, we're reading around 54 decibels, and I think I recall correctly that the Tundra is around 60, honestly. So that's quite a big difference there. So just keep that in mind if you're cross-dropping between the two.
Now, the other thing that was updated in the powertrain beyond the retuned engine is the transmission. We actually have a new transmission on board. This is a 9-speed automatic, and that replaces the previous 7-speed automatic. And I have to say the operation here is very smooth. We definitely have a lot of responsiveness. When you put your foot down, it shifts nice and quickly. You can tell it dropped just like 2 or 3 gears just then. You know, so that's what you're looking for. If you have a lot of gears, you need it to be nice and responsive, and I would say it is, you know, just as responsive as some of the newest transmissions we see from the big 3 automakers.
Now, as far as your drivetrains, as with pretty much any truck, you have 4x2 standard and then optional 4-wheel drive. And as far as the fuel economy is concerned, for the 4-wheel drive option, you're going to come in at 15 city, 21 highway, 18 combined, that's pretty class competitive fuel economy. It's better than the Tundra by quite a bit. Actually, I think the Tundra was at 14 miles a gallon or something. It's really bad. So you're having quite a bit of a performance, you know, there's not really much of a performance difference, but your fuel economy is actually quite a bit better in this Titan.
So overall, I have to say I'm pretty impressed by the way this Titan drives. This is, you know, my first time behind the wheel, and like I said, this truck kind of has this reputation of you know, being the kind of the forgotten option, and I think that's a little unfair, because here behind the wheel there's a lot of really nice things going for this truck. You know, particularly in comparison to the Tundra. there's a lot, this is a lot newer of a truck, and there's a lot of positive things going for this over top of the Tundra. You know, so I think if you're in the market for a truck, you know, we always encourage everyone to look at all your options and don't disregard certain things. Don't disregard the Titan either. Make sure you go out there, try it out, because you may be able to get a good deal on this and also, you know, have everything that you're looking for.
Alright, so now let's go ahead and discuss the pricing for this Titan, since this is probably one of this truck's most attractive areas. So for the crew cab 4-wheel drive, so you can get cheaper versions. I'm going to read these prices off. These are for crew cab 4-wheel drive. S is $41,990, SV $45,410, Pro 4X $49,790, SL $57,190, and Platinum Reserve for $58,690. The cheapest version that you can get, the King Cab 4x2, is $36,190, just for reference. Now this particular tester is the SV, and we do also have quite a few options on it. So we have the SV Convenience Package for $24.40, SV Tow Package for $790, the Utility Package for $1690, floor mats for $215, splash guards $245. And then we do have a credit for $1,000 on some of those packages, and then the destination charge is $15.95. So as tested, this particular model comes in at $51,385, which pretty much, you know, positions that, you know, this is not the highest end model that you can get. And if I'm being entirely honest, I don't see why you would get this particular configuration, because you could just kind of go for a higher end trim that comes with more standard equipment. But do keep in mind that Nissan does offer very healthy discounts, so that $51,000 price point is probably not what you would actually pay. Well guys, we've enjoyed watching this in-depth look at the 2020 Nissan Titan SV. We really appreciate you watching, and if you made it this far in the video, hopefully that means you enjoyed watching it. So be sure to hit that subscribe button down below, and we'll catch you next time as we sample more of the latest automotive delicacies.